Well, my next guest for getting up to speed, he's a YouTube sensation. He just participated in his first ever Chili Bowl Nationals in Oklahoma a couple weeks ago, and he's excited for 2023. It's the 2022 Western Sprint Tour Series champion, Tanner Holmes from Jacksonville, Oregon, and we will be talking to him next here on Getting Up to Speed. Well, and now joining me is the driver of the number 18T, Tanner Holmes. Tanner, thank you for taking some time out of your really busy day to have a chance to chat about all the great things that happened for you in 2022 and all the perhaps greater things that'll be happening here in 2023.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to talk.
I guess we'll just lead it off. 2022, a pretty good year for you guys. Ran a lot of races. I had you down for 50 feature starts, 34 top 10s, 26 top 5s, 18 podiums. 9 wins overall. You ran through 3 different categories, primarily in the 360 ranks. You guys were runner-up in points at Cottage Grove Speedway in Oregon and won the Western Sprint Tour Championship. Produced 4 wins, 10 podiums, 17 top 5s, 22 top 10s, and 26 starts. Not too bad of an outing for you guys.
Absolutely. No, I mean, actually, it's funny hearing those numbers now. It's kind of like sometimes you're always not sure where you're at, but when you hear it, in that way, definitely we had a little bit more consistency than I realized. And some of the fields we were up against were extremely tough. But, 2022, I felt like was a big year for myself. I was finally able to probably break out of my shell a little bit and just get rolling a little bit better. Felt like we had speed in previous seasons, but never was able to maybe put together full nights or just struggled at certain places a little bit more. But finally, we kind of got over some of those barriers and clicked off some wins and, was able to consistently run up front. And that's mainly, that's the big part of the game. If you're not consistently up front, you never have a shot to win races. So if you're up there enough, you'll finally find your way to victory lane. And I think that's kind of just what we're able to do. And we really shined at some of the places closer to home and definitely makes me, more excited for this season. Cause I think the little bit we learned and the speed we kind of ended the year with, especially because the beginning of last year was actually a pretty rough start. It wasn't looking great,
Sure.
But then we got going and finally found our stride. So definitely hoping for big things and hopefully we can kind of build off where we left off.
No doubt. Yeah, I think it was one of the races, Peter Murphy Classic weekend or something. It was an early weekend for you guys, and you went out, I think, qualifying, and then the weekend was over.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we had some incidents like that. That one in particular, just the racetrack day, it was still kind of greasy and honestly really wasn't ready for qualifying. And I ended up just being unlucky in the first group and made a mistake and ended up upside down and destroyed a car. And so you had stuff like that where, definitely as a driver, I needed to be more in the right, but you just get put in a bad situation and don't get yourself out of it. Or we had like our dirt cup where things went really bad and some of it, you probably could have been avoided, and some of it's just like it is what it is. You're just in the wrong spot. So definitely some bad luck and things that you wish you could turn around. But kind of once we got through all that and kind of clawed through, I guess some of the mud, we finally got going mainly around the Bob's Burger and Brew Summer Nationals, the start of Oregon or Northwest Speed Week, I should say, and ran second at the 10,000 win show behind Starks, and then won at Banks during Speed Week, and then kind of ran. Probably could have had another win or two during Speed Week, but just didn't get to the checkered flag first. Had some good races, but ultimately I know Sanders was really good during that. He won a bunch and ran second and third behind him a couple nights, and then after that just kind of kept running around the West Coast and I got a couple more wins, and it kind of all led up to how our season ended with Trophy Cup, where we almost won a night of that too and ran second. So we had so much speed, and that's, like I said, that's why I'm so excited to get this year going, because I still think we have some work to do, and if we can just find that little bit extra, I think we could really be lethal out here on the West Coast.
No doubt. And getting a win at Cottage Grove and WST competition. You mentioned Sunset Speedway Park in Banks, and some success at Southern Oregon Speedway in your neck of the woods. People may not know where Jacksonville is, but it's in the Medford area of Southern Oregon. To get a win there, a 360 win, a tour win there, that had to feel just incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, it did. That was, it wasn't a crazy field of cars or anything. There were some good guys up front, but just to get to race close to home, and that night in particular that we won, it was actually a pretty packed house. Mm-hmm. So that, with all the work they've done out at that racetrack, at one point, think whenever the whole pandemic was, so maybe 2020, 2021, somewhere in there, that place was actually abandoned for a little bit. And we actually didn't know if our local track was going to make it through. And luckily some guys stepped up to the plate, and now I feel like in the best position it's been over the last decade probably, but a lot of races going on. They're trying to bring some wing stuff back, and, had a WST show there. And the first night we weren't really good during the weekend. We still managed to run third, but we weren't really even a contender to win, being on the podium. And then the second night we turned it around and was definitely the best car. So it's fun racing that place. It's kind of a small little bull ring that can be super racy and super wide when they get it right. So looking forward to getting to race there this year, because I think they have a 410 show and some more 360 stuff, and just cool to see. I want to see Oregon be a big sprint car state. Years past it sometimes is and sometimes has less races, but I think this year, between all the different tracks, is probably the most amount of races you could run in a while. So definitely a lot of excitement from all of us local guys, and we're going to do our best to support it.
Well, and a new track coming into the fold too, the Douglas County dirt track.
Yeah.
There's a lot of excitement there, a lot of unknowns, but I think more excitement than anything.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, Douglas dirt track, I think, is going to be a really cool deal. One, it's right in the middle of Southern Oregon and Cottage Grove. It's literally, you can see it from I-5. I got to run a couple laps there during the test day, and there's just a lot of great features about it. It's really wide. It's a great shape. It's not, I like bull rings, but, I kind of lean towards a little bit of a bigger track. Probably I'd rather go that way than smaller. And it's a great size. It's going to be, it's wide. It seems like the material they have is really good. So, it is probably going to have some growing pains, and I think we all kind of understand that going into it. But, getting to run a 410 there, they have, I think, 9 360 shows, hopefully some bigger pain stuff. And I think that's just going to do all good things for dirt track racing. And, even though it's technically, another competitor in the state, I think it's only going to actually help out the other tracks. And seems like, guys are trying to work together. So, it just ultimately benefits us as the racers and hopefully benefits all the tracks as well. So the sport as a whole can grow.
Absolutely. And you mentioned 410s. You ran quite a bit of 410 stuff last year, especially in the springtime. 14 starts, producing 3 top 10s. Oregon, there isn't really any 410 racing, although they did have the NARC couple nights there. Their fastest 4 days in motorsports. But you guys did a lot of traveling to Skagit Speedway and ran most of the 410 shows up there.
Yeah, no, we did. And I think looking ahead at the future, we would like to run as much 410 stuff as we can. Out here on the West Coast, it's been a little bit more scarce, but it seems like it's been better than it has. So, we're going to have the opportunity to run more 410 races. I think they have 8 and 10 days in the middle of June, kind of leading into Dirt Cup. So we'll be at that. We're going to run some stuff in California to start the year, and then even, hopefully try to get to the Midwest a little bit and run some 410 stuff out there, because you can kind of, you obviously have a lot more options going that direction. But yeah, I mean, if it was up to me, I would be a 410 racer. Every time I hop behind the wheel of a sprint car, it just makes it easiest not to be jumping back and forth, and you kind of just know what you got all the time. But unfortunately, it's just not 100% that way, and that's totally cool. But yeah, no, glad that they're trying to bring it back and give us drivers more opportunity. With where the sport's going, 360s and 410s don't have a huge cost difference. So to get to run a 410 and race for a lot more money, we have big paying shows like the Peter Murphy Classic, like the Dirt Cup, and I think there's a couple more of them out here that kind of pop up here and there. But they pay more, they draw a lot of fans. People want to see 900 horsepower, and so I think it's a win for all of us. So if they can keep growing the 410s out here on the West Coast, I think we're in for a treat over the next decade.
Yeah, and I don't have the statistic in front of me, but the last time that there had been 410s at Southern Oregon Speedway had been World of Outlaws, like around 2015, I think 2014. It had been a long time since 410s had been there. So, and that place, that was kind of my sort of big comeback to announcing, because I sort of had written off like I'm done with racing kind of deal, and then I show up and it's standing room only, like holy Toledo. And a good race too.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that was another big thing. Winning that 360 race was neat, but being there for the return of 410s, considering I was there the last time 410s ran to watch that Outlaw show, like it was, not to, I guess, overhype it, but I mean, it was in a way a dream come true. Like I really love that place because it's where I fell in love with racing. And so to get to be out there for that and also be in the field and kind of run, we were like a top 5 car almost most of the race. I think we ended up like 6th, but just to be there for that and to see a pretty solid field of cars and some bigger names, come up and support it and travel was great. So that's another, that's something that I hope they continue to kind of make a tradition. And I think a lot of the drivers really also opened their eyes to the potential that speedway has. So, and I think, the fans enjoyed it too. So it's just, it's going to be good as they try to build on that now, kind of, moving now into 2023.
And another note to, I mentioned you raced 3 different categories, the spec category, the sportsman sprints, the limited sprints, whatever they're called, they have different lingo wherever you're at. But you had 10 starts, and this was a pretty cool statistic. You only finished outside the top 5 once, outside of 3rd place twice, and you had 5 wins. Primarily, that was, a Cottage Grove. I think Willamette had some success too, kind of deal. But that wasn't you had a 50% win average for 2022.
Yeah, that was fun. We mainly, try to focus on the 360 and 410 stuff, but with the area we're in, we had to keep a limited in our garage just to like be able to race on some weekends when we couldn't travel or couldn't get away from home. Because, for most people that don't know, we're located in Southern Oregon, and the closest track to us in California is 4 hours south. Mm-hmm. And after that, it's like more like 5.5, and then it goes all the way up to about 9, 10 hours. And to go north, we have Southern Oregon, obviously 25 minutes from the shop, but, Cottage Grove, Roseburg now is only going to be about an hour and a half. So that's great. But then Cottage Grove's 2.5, Willamette's 3.5, and then Banks is, all the way up by Portland, and Coos Bay is a solid 3 hours. So, not terrible, but we definitely, we can't just necessarily leave on a Saturday at 3:00 and go to the races all the time. But, so we kept a limited with us, just to be able to run close to home a little bit. And now, unfortunately, we did end up selling that. So we don't have that option. So our schedule is going to be a little bit different, but, you never know what could happen. And maybe if for some reason I was home and an opportunity to drive someone else's stuff was out there, for that weekend or whatever, definitely would do it. But it's cool that they're trying to grow sprint car racing, even at a smaller level, or however, I don't want to actually use that terminology, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just a different class, and sure, it's keeping people involved. And I think that idea for sprint cars has a lot of potential to kind of feed into the 360 stuff, as long as, it's kind of done right and it gets enough support.
Yeah. And, well, you never know. Maybe the I-1 Brian Crockett ride will be open.
Yeah. I might have to talk to that guy and see if I can get back in that thing.
Yeah. Which, by the way, for listeners that don't know, Brian Crockett was Tanner's, I guess you could say, crew chief a lot last year.
Yeah. Crew chief, close friend of both of us. And yeah, Brian's a great dude. As long as the I-1, yeah, definitely might have to make an appearance in that, as long as it fits our schedule sometime during the year, probably at Cottage Grove or Willamette or somewhere close.
Yeah. You briefly touched about it, so it's a great segue. 2023, the outlook of, running a lot of the big races around here, but also going to the Midwest would not be your first foray in the Midwest. Is there any particular places that you guys have sort of earmarked that you want to go to, or some places that, man, I can't wait to get back to that joint?
I think the main one is just Knoxville. We just got our feet wet, in 2021 there. And even I don't think we got a fair shot when we were there, just because we had some engine problems. And out of all places, a bigger racetrack is not a place to have engine problems, because, if you're down on horsepower, you're struggling. But, got our feet wet there. And that was a place that is so technical, especially to run like the bottom, but just to make your car go fast. And then, once your car's fast, then how to drive it, and how to drive in the dirty air and around other cars. And there's a lot of factors. So I think this year our goal is to get back and try to spend a little bit of time at Knoxville before the Nationals hit. And of course, there's a lot of other great tracks, none of them in particular that, you're excited to just see all of them, especially the places you've been to before. Like, for example, we're hoping to get back to Lake Ozark. That's on our schedule with the All-Stars. It's a place we've ran, which is nice because it's just not your first rodeo at the joint. But there is some advantages to running the place for the first time as a driver, because you kind of, if you can get to that point, you can kind of just try new things. And, some guys factor in, what can and can't be done on the track because they raced there before. And so they kind of almost limit themselves in their head. But as a new driver, sometimes that can play into your advantage and just going out there and making it happen. But it also has its disadvantages because you don't know the surface. You don't know kind of how it changes. You have to try to catch up throughout the night. But yeah, I think there's just a lot of places kind of in the Midwest around the Iowa area, a little bit in Illinois we're going to hit. I think Missouri as well. And that will kind of be probably after Dirt Cup if our season goes to schedule. But that's kind of what we're planning for. And we still have to finalize it. It's basically done now. We're just kind of going through and seeing, and it's always nice to have backup plans and stuff because, especially during the early part of the season, obviously out here in the Northwest, it rains a lot. So we'll probably be bolting around to many different places depending on what the weather's doing. But definitely by the end of June, our goal is to kind of be heading east and get ready for, some of the bigger sprint car races on the planet.
Sure. That sounds exciting. In 2023, I guess technically it's already started for you because you've been running some midget races. That was a brand new discipline for you. Was that a difficult adjustment at all?
Yeah, it was at first just, I think in the racing way, yes, just because anytime you have to get up to speed against guys that do it all the time, that's difficult. But as far as driving the car, it's funny. People ask me and they're like, man, do those really feel like outlaw carts? And I'm like, yeah, a midget feels very similar to a cage cart, especially if you take the wing off and you run your car wingless.
Mm-hmm.
I did that at Roseburg, and I could not, when I ran a midget for the first time, all I could think about was this feels just like that one time I ran wingless at Roseburg, just how it drives. You have to drive it so much with the throttle pedal, and you have to be so careful when to use the brake because the brake can actually get you probably in a little bit more trouble than it can help you. But you really just gotta drive the heck out of the car. You gotta send it in the corner. Mm-hmm. You gotta get it planted on the right rear, and it's just it's really interesting driving without that safety pillow that we're so used to having in a wing car, not on top of you. So the Chili Bowl was nuts. It was an eye opener. It was now an event that I kind of have marked down every year that I have to be at. I think,
sure,
just because it's that great. Even if you were just there as a fan, it's hard to want to miss that after we got to experience it for a week. But great to run with Chad Boat and CB Industries, and those guys, made me feel very welcome and brought a great piece of equipment to kind of catch me up to speed, with my lack of experience. And I feel like we did, you always want to do better, but we definitely did solid and got in one of the higher features on the end of Saturday. So just need some more seat time and hopefully I can get that before I'm back for 2024.
Well, and you had a pre-run too at Shawnee, right? The week before Chili
Yeah,
Bowl?
we ran Shawnee. Yeah, literally so practice was on a Sunday and we ran Shawnee Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So that was good to get to do that. And just to kind of, anytime you go somewhere, if you're going to go to the Midwest, you're trying to race as much as you can. So when we drive out there for Chili Bowl, it's there's a kart race 3 days before, we're going to be there. And it happened to pay really well too. It was $5,000 to win. And then there was lap money for every lap you led. So, we went out there and actually, since you don't get as much track time at some of those kart races because you have so many classes and the show's a lot more spread out, I really didn't feel very good all weekend until we finally got to start racing and started working on the AT&T. But by the time we rolled off from the front row of the finale, my car was exactly where it needed to be. And really fun racetrack, super banked, super slick, pretty solid cushion, which isn't really my thing, but had to kind of dig a little deeper inside myself and find that in the go-kart. Because I'm more of just not slow roll the bottom, but more of a patient, try to find, momentum type deal. But I kind of had to just hustle it for 50 laps there at Shawnee and was able to lead them all and win, which was neat. So there was a huge field of cars and definitely just a different area of the country for outlaw kart racing. And to go out there and I guess have a presence was definitely a great way for us to start our trip kind of leading into the Chili Bowl.
Sure. No doubt. And for listeners that don't know, they may know you as just a sprint car driver. You're still heavily involved in outlaw cage kart racing. In fact, you're, I guess, what would you say, a factory driver, like a motorcycle rider, a factory rider for Factory QRC, which is a big accomplishment considering the notoriety of QRC, as well as just the whole prestige of racing Red Bluff, Cycleland, that whole, I know that's predominantly Red Bluff these days, but it's a pretty big deal for those that don't know.
Yeah, It's been great, so I'm actually getting ready to cross my, I guess you could say, 5 year anniversary with QRC and driving a car for them, and it's been nothing but great things. Jimmy Elledge, who owns the company, has now become like almost like a second father in my life. He took over QRC in 2014 and in the house car program that they have, and ran Logan's TV for a while, and then Logan went on to do bigger and better things and is just killing it in the open wheel world. And I mean, just won a driller. And
Sure.
luckily it's the right time that I was moving up, and I got the opportunity to drive for Jimmy, and now to this day still do kind of mainly, like you said, Red Bluff, just because that's what works out in the wintertime, and that's kind of the main focus, I would say. And then we kind of dance around a little bit, come up to Roseburg if there's, during some of the off weeks during December and November and January when there's not as much going on. But it's been great running for them, and they've definitely helped me progress a lot just as a driver. During the wintertime, some people would argue that running other things besides sprint cars would have a negative effect, but I feel like just racing in general is very helpful. And so for me, getting to run 15, 20 shows while everyone else is sitting at home, I think it helps keep you sharp, keep your reflexes going. In the outlaw cars, they are just so fast with their power to weight ratio. Things happen quickly. So I think the main thing is you have to be so on it, and you have to be so aggressive, which is helpful for when you hop back in a wing sprint car, because you have to drive them hard and you have to hustle and you have to be on it. So yeah, I just enjoy racing anything, and growing up doing the kart stuff, it's kind of a no-brainer. If I, even if in the years coming, if let's say I have to run them a little bit less with other things going on, that's totally fine. But definitely try to make it a priority to run them a little bit, and try to support some of the kart tracks in our area too, because they need it as they're trying to grow, and um, and it's it's just really cool what they're all trying to do.
Oh, and I got to tell you, like Red Bluff, like when I started as an announcer, which was a long time ago, but to get invited to go there last year, and I'm like, I don't know, like, am I going to fit in the, like, what's this all about kind of thing? Like it's one of those
Yeah,
places that I always wanted to go to, and I got a chance to watch some races, and like it just never worked out. And then, there were some phone calls made, and hey, we need somebody to fill in because Chase Rodman, who's with the World of Outlaws, his schedule doesn't allow him to be there every weekend. And, then, long story short, I've been there pretty much every single race this year, with Chase, without Chase,
yeah,
and it's like, holy smokes, it is a whole different culture, and I mean all that in a positive way. Like, it is dead bone serious. Every single night is like the Knoxville Nationals, because everybody that's anybody's there every single round.
yeah. No, I don't. And I think people that had never been there just don't realize that, and I have respect for that. I get that. But yeah, being there, it's funny. I actually missed my first Red Bluff race in like 12 years for Trophy Cup
Yeah,
this year. Running that, which was which was great that we did that. But just we've been so committed to that place, because I feel like it's made me the driver that I am today, more at a younger age than anything, but still, just because it's so intense. And maybe it's not even the racing, it's not even that, but it's literally just like preparing for a race night and how intense it is, and how up on the wheel and literally zero mistakes you can make, because you'll
sure.
just get eaten alive by the competition. So that is, as a driver, that is, to have that mindset every night, and have to be that, that competitive and that in it is, you can take that to anything. And if you show up, I mean, it shows why some of these guys are so good that come from the outlaw kart ranks, Red Bluff and Cycling and some of these other places. But Red Bluff's just a different animal, and maybe it's just something when you get inside those walls, and I don't know what it is, but it's just, it really is crazy. So very fortunate to run there, fortunate to get to race with QRC. It's cool the amount of success we've had, and we don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So we actually have, I think, 5 or 6 or 7 more races there this winter, and hopefully going to bring home some hardware.
Yeah, and for folks that have never seen it, go on Fast Four Media, get your viewing pass, get the subscription, because you definitely don't want to miss out on any of it, because you'll have drivers for the opens that will come from the D main, D as in dog, and go all
Yeah,
the way to the A main and possibly win. I mean, it's
yeah,
just amazing.
and a full day of entertainment. I mean, a full
Yeah.
Saturday. They start racing at like 11:30 West Coast time, and we'll race up until 8 or 9 o'clock. I mean,
Sure.
it's all day long, just thrashing. Some good racing. Some not so good racing, but just anything you would see in a race night is usually all included in just one weekend. There at Red Bluff.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. And I like to ask this question for a lot of drivers because a lot of it is different. And for you, there really isn't much of an off season, but as far as like off time that you have in the rare instance, what are some things that fans, I guess if they were crazy enough, catch you doing, or what would you find yourself doing?
Man, that's actually I kind of do get asked this from time to time, and I never really know, I guess, how to answer it. Maybe it, and this is I mean, I guess this is kind of a dumb answer, but here and there, like we'll try to go and just do something like maybe it's all of our family vacations, we call them, are just quick trips. Like it's
Sure.
like a day or it's 2 days, and you just go and do like the littlest things in our area. Or I know even like at the beginning of the year, like all of a sudden we're like, man, we have like it was a super slow week, like nothing was going on, and so like the week before we're gonna go to Disneyland for like 2 days and just fly there, fly back like quick.
Yeah.
So we kind of doing things like that as far as like a bigger deal. But mainly, man, a lot of it is just everything revolves around racing. And so like if we're not racing, it's like you're working on the cars, you're doing that. Or a lot of it, I really enjoy making content and stuff. So a lot of my off time is just spent like in front of my computer, and maybe that's video stuff, maybe that's pictures and social media. Like I love editing things together and just like always being prepared for what's coming up. So with the big season ahead and whatnot, like I like to look at what weeks we're going to be at different places to kind of start, getting all my ducks in line. So I mean, I hate to be that generic guy that's always like, it never stops, but I mean, people are right. Like there really isn't, there isn't a lot of other things to do when you're so focused on racing. But I guess one, I could say in the summertime, we do like to get out on the water a little bit, some of the lakes nearby and stuff like that. That's always a good time. But, mainly if you're running just about every weekend and then all the work you have during the week, it definitely is hard to get away from it for just a little bit.
Sure. I mean, it's a whole lifestyle. Like,
Yeah.
It's so hard to explain to people outside of racing. And then when they kind of get it, they're like, oh, and they come and watch you. That's really cool. Well, are you going to race like in a few more weeks or something? It's like, no, like I got another race tomorrow, or like I got another race for the rest of the week, or, next week and I'm going to be here. It's like, oh, wow. So like when does it end? Well, it doesn't really end. So
it never does. No, and I explain to people, I mean, like an example, like during the heavy part of the sprint car season, like there was nights last year where, I mean, this is very simple, but we're a family team and stuff. So there's 5 of us, and we'll be working so late in the shop, or, we're in such a rush to get things ready that like my older sister, who does cook, does some of the cooking in the house, like she'll just bring it all to the shop and we'll just eat, or like we'll just make sandwiches or just do like the simplest thing, just because everyone's running in circles trying to get ready to go racing. So like just the littlest things in our life go upside down. It's, during the summertime, mainly just when that's our schedule is the busiest. But yeah, it's really something else, and you have to almost just be crazy to do that. And I guess we all are.
Well, and something I got to give you props and kudos to is, especially here on the West Coast, and this isn't to slam anybody or say that they're doing a terrible job, because I think we're starting to see more and more people do this, which is good. But I think you are one of the blazers when it comes to being a social media influencer, to maybe connect to kids that never would have went to a race, never had interest with race cars or anything, but you're able to have that connection. And I think when you said sitting in front of a computer, it's not just twiddling your thumbs and just putting something vanilla together. It's got to be impactful, because the culture is changing like every single half hour, it seems, and you have to think of a better mousetrap, or be ahead of the curve so much. Now, you and I have had hours of conversation about this. How do we get new people? How do you get people involved in racing, or just to come watch or become a lifelong fan? It's not a simple answer, but if you can just keep shooting shots, one of them might stick. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, right now it's a weird game, and I think racing in general is in a spot where like it could be on the verge of exploding to this audience of people that have never heard of dirt racing, or maybe they're like the more generic NASCAR fans.
Mm-hmm.
And mainly, I think it's just like we need more content. Like I
Sure.
mean, right now, media is so big, and there's so many eyeballs out there, but there's still such a need for content in dirt racing. And so I honestly, aside from even what I just said, like I do just enjoy making content in general. So I have a great time doing it, but
Mm-hmm.
it is awesome that it does serve a purpose. And I do think about that a lot. Like, how can we get new people involved? How can we get 5 new fans to the track every week? Like that's super important, because all it takes is to hook someone, get people involved. And I know guys that weren't really into racing or whatever, started, maybe found my stuff, or, just showed up at the local track. Maybe we won that night. And then all of a sudden they're like following us to all these different tracks, and they have their campers, and they're like going to races. And so like it doesn't take a lot. It just takes that one post at the right time, or that one convincing to get that fan to come to the races. And then, you put on a show and they're hooked for life. But I think we have so much impressive on-track products out here on the West Coast. We have a lot of good races to showcase. We have a lot of racers with personality and all the right combinations. It's just no one is showing that to the world, and not,
Mm-hmm.
or not no one, I should say. But there needs to be more in just across the board, even, throughout the United States. But there's so much awesomeness in dirt racing, and we just need more of it to be shared with people that would definitely want to see it. So we're heading in the right direction. And I think, over the next 10 years, as long as this racing thing keeps going good, I think there's going to be a lot more fans, and that opens up doors for everyone, not only drivers, but tracks and sponsors. And I mean, it's overall just a bigger win.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. And I think what's really cool is, you have like the World of Outlaw is something as simple. I mean, it's not simple because it's a very expensive product to make and produce and stuff, but the World of Outlaw video game that will make kids and people in general realize, like, wait, this happens in real life. Oh, when are these guys going to be around here? Oh, I have a local track. I mean, there's been some people that I've ran into, that, well, I was on iRacing and I didn't realize that I was so close to an actual real racetrack, and I started showing up every week to watch. So, it does, those things like
Yeah.
that have big implications.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if anything, more nowadays, obviously we want to get the older fan, bring them to the races, get them to spend money, put money into the sport. But I think we all kind of underestimate the value of really getting that kid at a younger age. And I think that's actually more the ticket, because right now there's so many other things going on that it's so easy to pull that kid's attention away from dirt
Sure.
racing. We got to get them hooked, and we got to get them here to stay, because they're going to grow up to be lifelong fans. I think there's a lot of guys that have been around the sport for, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, going to races, supporting, sponsor, whatever. But that the generations are just changing. So I
Mm-hmm.
think right now it's about, having a good way for kids to get involved as a fan, as a driver, if they want to, run outlaw carts or run quarter midgets or micros, and making sure that those stay healthy. And so people can get involved in that barrier to entry stays as low as it can. And then also, just like I said, as welcoming to get these people in and get them hooked.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think with a lot of things, not just racing, I mean, it even goes to all the way up to NASCAR, to Formula One, to NFL, NBA, whatever big league. Kind of the biggest entertainment enemy is just like a simple cell phone. And I don't mean that in a bad way that kids shouldn't have cell phones. It's just like, I'm just going to, play Fortnite with my friends here. I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to watch anything. So
Yeah,
it's, you're at war with something so close, so obtainable and tangent for somebody. It makes it a tricky thing. So,
for sure. For sure. No, it's definitely. And then there's that. And even, I think it's important to say too that these tracks got to keep making their experience in person as high quality as it can be, because now with streaming, it's so easy for fans just to sit at home in the comfort of that and not go to the races. So I think that there's a lot of different battles, and that's great because that's supporting the stream, in which we need as well. But just in general, I think that's why it's important for tracks to do their part promoting, and it's not an easy thing, but also promoting. But then once you get the people there, you got to have it live up to the expectations and that wow factor that we need.
mm-hmm. No, I agree. For folks that want to see your racing schedule, once it's published, or maybe perhaps it changes a little bit, and maybe get apparel or see the latest team news, what's the best way to kind of track that? Is there any specific site, or do you have a social media account that's best to go to as a venue?
Yeah, so the main ones, we have our website, tannerholmes.com, and we have everything on there. Our schedule is getting ready to be published here at the end of this week. And then also a great way to follow us is on YouTube, which is youtube.com/tannerholmes, or you could go to the search bar and just type in my name. But we'll have a video on there on our schedule. We also have a Facebook page, which is just my name as well. And basically any platform we post to, and we try to keep our fans updated. But mainly Facebook and YouTube and Instagram are probably my main three that I really hit hard. And if there's any breaking news on myself or on our team or where we're heading, like, it's on there. And that's the best way to follow us.
Awesome. And then sponsors, supporters, family members, or individual people that you want to thank. I just give you, I know that there's a lot of them, but I, give you a moment here to thank all of them.
For sure. Honestly, the main one, I feel like, obviously they get credit, but I should give them more, is just my family. They support me a lot through all the different things, whether it's something like the Chili Bowl, whether it's our outlaw kart racing that takes up all of our free time in the winter when we probably should be at home, or, all of our busy sprint car stuff. So I really got to give it to them. And they're the reason that I'm here and where I'm at today. And so I'm very thankful for that. There's a lot of other people that have helped me, but they're the main one, and they're my ride or dies. So I appreciate that.
Awesome. And any specific sponsors you want to thank, or just a general blanket thank all of them?
Yeah, I'll give a huge shout out. I know we mentioned QRC. I actually was down there today. A lot of great people, and they support my winter racing stuff. So I'm always thankful for what Jimmy Elledge and what he does for my karting program. And then on my sprint car stuff, we have some partners that are going to be returning this year that have helped us in the past. Earth Environmental, Carson Oil, Next Gen Def, Fast Four Media is going to be back on. You mentioned them earlier in the interview. ABC Powder Coating, and then we'll have some new ones also. Pit Stop USA, and then we'll have some new ones to follow that will be released here soon.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to it. I hope the rest of the winter campaign goes okay, and maybe we'll be having you on here a few times throughout the year talking about some successes in a sprint car in 2023.
For sure. No, that sounds like a good plan to me.
All right. Tanner Holmes, everybody. Thanks again, Tanner, and we'll be talking soon.
Thank you.